space. I think even though
Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is a special live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. And we can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. Without further ado, I want to bring in a cat who has been rocking in the free world for quite some time. He is a legend on the bandstand, has been a leader for quite some time, but really started his career, under the tutelage of the real cats, the Lonnie Macs and the Bluesmen of Chicago. It is an honor to bring in an American legend, Ted Nugent. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Jake, I feel welcome. You deserve me, sir. Happy 2017 to you, and we're all working hard, playing hard as America across the great hinterland, man.
You know what? It is such a beautiful honor to connect with you. I wanted you to talk a little bit about. I had a very serendipitous conversation with a friend of yours, Kevin Russell, and Russ told me that you guys had the same guitar teacher, Joe Podorczyk. He was an original funk brother. Is that true?
I'll tell you, yeah, I'm sure even over these mildly technical phone lines, you can feel the glow, Jake. I mean, I am the luckiest guitar player that ever beat up a rhythm and blues lick. I literally played bass guitar for Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry. Are you kidding me?
No, you mean at Chess Records?
No, not in an official recording session, but on the road at a couple of gigs back in the 70s when they needed a killer musician with ultra funk.
Oh, I'm digging this. So you were playing bass for Diddley?
Yeah, are you kidding me? And you wonder why I'm like this? You wonder where I have got this attitude and this spirit and this fully erect American dream? Yes, but going back to, thank God Kevin Russell, and thank you, Jake, for bringing up the name Joe Podorczyk, because Joe and I, we were in touch last night again. We've been in touch all these years since 1958, when I went to the Capitol School of Music on Grand River in downtown Detroit with my dad. I was just going on 10 years of age, and I had this just horrible anti-musical, unplayable old Epiphone guitar that my dad picked up for me for $5
right.
Because I was begging to try to unleash this rhythm and blues soul music that I was so captured by, so wallowing in back in that era when Little Richard and certainly Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, are you kidding me? When these guys unleashed this powerful, authoritative, emotional, defiant, rebellious, outrageous, noisy, sexy music upon an unsuspecting semi-Caucasian public, I mean, I was absolutely hooked. You could probably tell by my choice of verbiage how excited I was then and how excited I remain today. But yes, Joe Podorczyk was in the hallowed cauldrons of the Motown Hitsville, USA, in Detroit, with the gods.
It was
authoritative music, the Funk Brothers. So that connection drives me to this very day, 60 years later.
Talking to Ted Nugent here on the Jake Feinberg Show. He is on fire. We're burning. I mean, can you talk, really, if you can go back to that time, it's so important because I talk to so many drummers now, and it's very hard when the drum machine came in. All of a sudden you had human beings trying to copy a machine. Before that, you just had rhythm. You had people you would listen to records, you would listen to people live. Maybe you'd hear one take on the radio and you'd have to memorize it. I just wanted you to talk about how Podorczyk taught you, where you learned rhythm the most. Because if you don't have rhythm, then you don't have a gig.
Well, all of us, I mean, we literally genuflected, both literally and figuratively, at the altar of our black heroes, because the black artists who were rejoicing the escape of slavery, thank God, and the reminiscing of the horror of slavery. That's really why the black music was so authoritative, because they had gone into hell zones that very few people had in history. And that emotional unleashing it, they unleashed it in You still with me there?
No, you keep riffing, dude. You're doing it.
In a virtually uninhibited, primal stream of consciousness that it touched all the musicians, especially in Detroit, Jake, because Motown had already tuned it in to not just the unabashed screaming of celebration from unshackling of slavery, but the joys of the consumers embracing that music of defiance and authority. I hope everyone is listening to my words, because I was there and I breaststroked into that black water rapids of soulfulness. And here it is, 2017, and in 2016, at the tender age of 67 3/4, my band, and you talk about drummers, Jason Hartless,
Yes.
21-year-old drummer from Detroit, and Greg Smith, they are my own funk brothers. We had the greatest tour of our life, Sonic Baptism 2016, because that black Motown touch and imprinting that I was baptized with as a young boy in Detroit, it has not only never left me, Jake, but thank God there are guys like you and millions of real music lovers that understand that primal scream, want that primal scream, and they know that the soundtrack to freedom has an edge, and it came from Bo Diddley and Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and all the greatest music in the world. I don't care if it's Justin Bieber and I don't know nothing about his music, and or Kid Rock or Eminem or any music you hear. It has a piece in varying degrees, most powerfully by people like the Chili Peppers and Dave Grohl and his different bands, and my buddies in ZZ Top and Aerosmith and Sammy Hagar. There's a bunch of us out there that still live that Motown, Howlin' Wolf, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Wilson Pickett, James Brown authority. Thank God, it's as real as sex, life, and death.
We are having a ball already. I need to ask you, when you the band you were in the early '60s, was it pronounced the Lords?
Yeah, I started the Lords in 1959 in Detroit with John Brake and John Finley and Pete Prim and Tom Noel. We played in the basement, in the garage. I don't know if the world knows it, but we invented the garage band, and we emulated all those black heroes. And let's not fail to mention Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, because they showed us how.
So this is so important. I was going to go off on a different, I'm going to hit you later with that. So when I was interviewing Russell, I have this great audio that him talking about how you guys still hang. He loves you so much, and you guys followed each other. But he said Detroit was the only, you developed what was called rock soul. And rhythmically, can you talk about what Mitch Ryder did rhythmically to merge the 4/4 rock with ultimately the soul, the R&B, what was the pulsating, urging, raging freedom of that black music? Can you put that in a musical sense?
You think I might be able to? Jake, by the way, I salute you for those uses of terms you just projected, because I'm going to answer that question about the melding and the unification, the confluence of soul and unabashed rock and roll by a bunch of flailing white kids trying to be Little Richard. and I'll tell you how we did it. And everybody write this down. Johnny Bonangic. Johnny Bonangic.
I don't know that. All right.
He's the drummer for Billy Lee and the Rivieras, where I opened up for the Billy Lee and the Rivieras and Martha and the Vandellas at the Walled Lake Casino in Walled Lake, Michigan, outside of Detroit, with Gene Pitney opening for us. My band, the Lords, I think, 12 years old or something. But my band, Tom Noel, the drummer, and Pete Prim, my bass player, watched Johnny Bonangic, 15 years old. That was as good as, now this is blasphemy to some who don't know better, but I know what I'm talking about. Johnny Bonangic was as good as any black drummer that ever lived, and he still is. He played on my Shut Up and Jam record in 2015, and the guy is a walking throttle. You listen to Jenny Take a Ride, and the reason every band that has come since, they might not know it, but even Bruce Springsteen with his amazing E Street Band and what Max and that rhythm section did was because they re-recorded Jenny Take a Ride. You listen to the bass drum. It is the heartbeat of independence and defiant Americans. And that's why Mitch Ryder still performs across Europe, because he reeks of that Little Richard, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, certainly Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Mose Allison, Lightnin' Hopkins and all the gods and B.B. and Freddie and Albert. But that was the epicenter musically of what still delivers the goods to this day. And it's so important you're emphasizing the rhythm, the throttle, the thump, the groove, the spirit. I'm clean and sober, Jake, for 68 years. I've never gotten high on poisons or drugs or alcohol. I get high on spirit. And when you get to play with the caliber of world-class musicians that I have for the last 60 years, like Johnny Banagic and all my amazing drummers, Tommy Clefettos and Tommy Aldridge and Marco Mendoza, are you kidding me? If you look at my musicians, obviously God loves me a little bit more than he loves other people, because he just surrounds me with these unbelievably gifted, talented virtuosos, and that throttle, that rhythm, is what gets everybody's attention. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top said it best, and I apologize if I'm too monologuing here.
To me, this is therapeutic, because we're going to keep going, man.
But Billy Gibbons, my dear sonic bombast blood brother from ZZ Top, said it clearly, that a recently conceived fetus in the womb will dance if it gets an earful or mama gets a bellyful of a Bo Diddley lick. Caitlin would be even more confused if he listened to Bo Diddley music, because he'd want all of the sexual apparatus at his disposal. It is so sexy, so earthly, so primal, that if you don't dance to a Bo Diddley lick, I don't even know where to begin for you to get help. But
you just described
a driving force to this day. And I'll tell you, when I pick up my guitar like I did about an hour ago, I'm sitting here with my Labradors right now. They're both completely whooped from doing daily chores. But you can hear I've got terrible bronchitis right now. But when we talk about music, there's no Barack Obama, there's no Taliban, and there's no bronchitis. The music owns our soul, does it not, Jake?
Listen, man. The primal. You're using so many terms that I just throw out all the time to the cats, and it's invigorating for me. I do want to talk to you though about the. Okay, so I'm looking at Johnny B. Bandangic.
Johnny Banagic. Oh my God, he's an old man. I think he's 71 or 72 now. He played on my Shut Up and Jam record, and listen to his foot. His foot alone will make a dead sequoia dance.
What I want you to I'm gonna throw something at you here though, because you're talking about the masters of the blues, but Miles Davis said that it's not what you play, it's the space, it's the sound.
Yes,
okay, now
let it breathe.
Now, okay, so I want you to. Here's the thing: when I hear music today, especially people that are emulating Grand Funk Railroad, progressive rock, people that are emulating. The double bass drums have sucked out that space, and I wanted you to talk about Bandangic or other drummers and how they used the cymbals to keep time, because the bass drum was not the main timekeeper back in the early '60s. Just was not.
I've been to the mountaintop of blessings and privilege and honor and humility, because I got to listen to the raw 4-track recordings of a bunch of Motown hits right in Hitsville. And so if people are wondering why I'm this crazy, it's because nobody else has heard the breakdown of the original Temptations and the Four Tops. And if you could hear the bass drum, I'll give you an example. And Chad Smith, who's also jammed with me, one of the greatest musicians that have ever lived, Chad Smith with the Peppers, He's from Detroit, which identifies his Bonangic link, and he'll tell you that Johnny Bonangic is God.
No, I need to talk to Bonangic immediately, dude.
Oh, you got to.
I got to get
the guy's a riot. Plus, he'll give you some fish stories that'll keep you really entertained. But here's the breakdown of how I Wish It Would Rain by the Temptations. Here's the bass drum. Kong, 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 kong.
Exactly, right.
Kong. And the noise, when I went to record my first solo album, the Ted Nugent album with Stranglehold and Hey Baby and Motor City Madhouse, they kept telling the drummer that it was too noisy. And I went, no, it's not too noisy. Here's something for you. It ain't noisy enough. I don't want to stop the rattles. I don't want to stop the clanging and the echo. I want to hear the great drummer from Led Zeppelin finally figured that out, that you want things to be noisy and clanging like a giant marching band with giant buildings on both sides of the parade route. You want noise. You want outrage. That you listen to the original blues records and gospel records, and that's probably done in a church with all kinds of echo. So that rhythm begins, and though I can't stomach most of the hip hop and rap stuff, it just doesn't take me to it doesn't climax. There's no crescendo in that music. I'm looking for a crescendo. I'm looking for a guitar solo that rips your face clean off, and that the breathing, the hold. It's called chops. You listen to the great Cliff Davies on my solo records and all the amazing drummers I've been honored to collaborate with. There's a hole there, but let's not take away from the occasional unleashing throttle that'll go back to the song Connections on Between the Buttons with the Rolling Stones, where Charlie Watts got his single bass drum going, connections, connections. That was a direct Johnny Bonangic lesson. When sometimes the holes are great to establish a building emotion, but then as you approach the crescendo, unleash the beast. Just like guitar playing, you want to make lyrical guitar licks. You listen to Stranglehold, and all the holes are as important as all the notes. And you're touching on some very important stuff. And a lot of people might not recognize that if they're not musicians. All the musicians are sipping their tea right now, or whatever it is they're drinking, and they're nodding their heads going, Nugent's right. Boy, I'm glad somebody identifies this incredible, magical, musical connection that we have. But the people who consume the music, who we play it for, they're starting to nod their heads going, oh, yeah, my favorite song has that stuff. It's awesome. It still inspires in the year 2017 with all the electronic de-souling technology that exists. There's still plenty of soul out there.
I wanted to. I'm going to take a chance on this, but I want to believe that Ted Nugent played the Chitlin Circuit, or at least the Northern Chit. Did you play anything reminiscent of that? And what was that experience like?
Hey, Jake, in 2016 on Sonic Baptism on September 3rd in Oklahoma, I did my 6,758th concert. 6,758, and I think the first 5,000 could be considered the Chitlin Circuit.
No, but I want you to paint that picture of the floorboards and the boogie woogie because that to me, John. Love and Spoonful. To me, that was the apex. It put money in your pockets. You also had a chance to play with. We are only one human race, and you had a chance to play with all human beings. And I just want you to talk about that love of the Chitlin Circuit, and maybe most importantly, what you learned. What was the most wise or philosophical thing you can riff on?
Well, geez, that opens quite a
box,
an unleashed, vast stratosphere of identity. But let me try to pinpoint it for you. First of all, even though I did my 6,758th concert in 2016, and I played some of the biggest concerts in the history of concerts, Cal Jam, 500,000 people, a lot of different festivals with 250,000 people, I turned those giant, vast gigs into a Chitlin bar because our music is authentic, it's authoritative, and And my musicians and I believe that every song is the most important song in the world, every gig is the most important gig in the world, and every lick is the most important lick in the world. And every eyeball in the audience is the most important eyeball in the world. So you can continue that. I'm pretty good with the English language, but words fail me to adequately describe the connection I have with people in a small, greasy club in downtown Detroit in 1962, in 1965, 1970, all through the years. And we still do those. We play the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano.
I love that. I got to get down. See, this is the thing. I do want to ask you something here, and I want to talk to you about this idea, this fully erect American dream. This idea that it's strip away all the other nonsense and the social media and all these issues surrounding alternative lifestyles. I look at the election of Donald Trump. The man is a fully erect, straight male. Do you believe that he epitomizes this fully erect American dream?
Yes, but so does Caitlin. And boy, I don't know how I can expand any further than that. And I don't mean to keep picking on old Bruce, but he and I raced together at the L.A. Coliseum, and I kicked his ass. He was an Olympic gold medalist, and I just wrote Wango Tango. So that shows you that you don't get a participation award. You got to put your heart and soul into it. My point being is that whether it's my gay friends, my transgender friends, my straight friends, my deer hunting friends, my musical friends, my technology friends, my religious friends, my Jewish, my Muslim, my Christian, my Buddha, everybody, mankind, we are fully erect and maximized in our individual life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but only in America is it guaranteed to each individual, by identifying that God gave us the gift of life and that all these freedoms and rights come from God, and we, the people, experimenting in self-government, are supposed to be in the driver's seat demanding constitutional accountability from our elected employees. I give you Donald J. Trump in total defiance and the rejection of all things liberal Democrat, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. And if you don't get that, call 1-800-NUMBNUT, and Michael Moore will explain why personal hygiene is superfluous.
I mean, is it that is he thrusting us into this new bad? I predict birth rates will go up. I mean, I'm not saying that it's all going to be bread and roses. But this man is bringing an energy and a tenacity that is, it's even if it's, some bedraggled person, they are going to get fired up. There's going to be an edge to it. I mean, how important is that edge?
I could give you an unlimited litany of examples and evidence that you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind and gagged by denial to counter why the Barack Obama liberal excuse-making orgy is being rejected, and that you're correct. Even the fringe into the left, even those who want to feel good with the lies of the liberals, with the Saul Alinsky denial of individual freedom and individual rights, even some of those are waking up and going, Ted Nugent and Donald Trump are correct. I would feel better. I would be more proud. I would sleep better if I earned my own way. And if I earn my own way and I make sacrifices, I will be a more full, proud human being, and I will be in the asset column for myself, my family, my neighbors, my community and my country, my fellow man, and the good Mother Earth, if I would just choose to put forth the effort and energy and prioritization in life to be in the asset column. And I believe that Donald Trump, as a businessman who has to be accountable to the bottom line, now to we the people, as our elected employee in the White House, now I have confidence that my pride will come based on my individual choice and efforts to be in illegal immigration. You have to be brain dead and soulless, soulfully vacuous to not know the difference between legal stuff and illegal stuff. So, yes, this is a great awakening. I say God bless America, and I think that the indicators, no, I take that back. I have seen the indicators of a positive forward launch, like in my Dodge Hellcat. I don't leave the red light. I launch.
See, Farner's the same way. I mean, he said, thrust forward, Brother Feinberg. And I said,
launch. It's time to launch, brother.
I do want, I mean, we live in a free country. So are you willing to, what kind of dissent is Ted Nugent willing to hang with? I mean, to dismiss a lot of cats, I mean, because ultimately we want to bring people together. You were on.
Well, let's be careful. You know, everybody's railing about the divisiveness and the divide. Well, I got news for you. You know what's really good in life? Dividing good from bad. We would always welcome the bad to get good, to get legal, to be accountable, and join the good. But until you do, we are going to divide you away from us because we want legal immigrants to come and put their heart and soul into benefiting America and living the American dream. We go out of our way to facilitate and to escort you in legally. Illegally? No. Divide. Love the divide. For example, in my life, I divide my family from criminals. I want the divide between good and bad. If you want to quit being bad and be good, then join us. We'll let you across the divide.
Yeah.
But if you're a lawbreaker and you're a doper and you're ruining people's lives, I'm dividing you. Eat me.
Hey, my mom's from Saginaw. I'm a huge Detroit sports fan. I mean, did you ever play a gig for Wayne Fonts? Can you tell me a good Detroit Lions story?
Yeah. No, not really. I've never been a spectator. I went to Briggs Stadium in 1958. Briggs Stadium. Who remembers that?
Well, yeah, I went to Tiger, but yeah, I'm with
you.
Yeah,
and I think Norman Cash was playing that day, and I was playing in Little League, and I was a pretty good hitter, and I was a hell of a runner. And boy, if a long fly ball to center field went out there, I guarantee I'd beat it and catch it. I was very athletic. I was wiry. I was all sinew and muscle up until I turned 60. And so I was always I appreciated the athleticism, especially the Red Wings and Gordie Howe. And as the Pistons came into my focus because of my sons are all incredible sports fans. They love that stuff, and they're super athletes, and they play all the different sports. But I was so consumed with my musical adventure and the mystical flight of the arrow, which, by the way, archery and bow hunting is the greatest sport in the world. And so I was so consumed by the great outdoors and wildlife and conservation and the adventure and exploring of my River Rouge Skunk Hollow outside of Detroit there that I never watched any sports. And to this day, I've been invited to Super Bowls, and I've actually attended Super Bowls with governors, and I'm bored to tears watching other people do stuff. I do stuff. I don't watch people do stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I dig it. I dig it completely. And, were you, when you went to Chicago, did you cross paths with Michael Bloomfield at all?
Almost. He was a super influence. In fact, Michael Lutz, the originator of Brownsville Station, my funk brother, Motown blood brother, Michael Lutz. You ready for this, Jake?
Yeah.
In Ann Arbor, Michael Lutz owns Michael Bloomberg's 58 Les Paul that he played on the original Paul Butterfield Blues Band album going back to Chicago.
Elvin
and
Bishop,
Chitlin floor.
Yeah.
He owns the guitar. And boy, talking about getting downwind of a musical erection. So I'm well aware that Michael Bloomfield, he tragically went the drug route and died unnecessarily, as so many of my musical friends and heroes did. But he was a supercharged influence. I'm sure Kevin Russell and and Mark Farner, if Mike Bloomfield's name came up, they both, paused and reminisced of the dynamic influence he had on the lyricality of guitar playing, especially in that era when we were trying to figure out what B.B. and Freddie and Albert and Bo and Chuck and Gatemouth Brown and all those incredible lyrical guitar players were doing back then. So he was a huge influence. And whenever I mention my heroes, I sometimes feel terrible that I forgot to remind everybody of the power and the authenticity and the musical authority of Michael Bloomfield.
Now, I think it's important to talk about this stuff because it's, literally you had cats when you left Detroit and went to Chicago. I mean, did you go to Market Street to see the Blind Dobro players play?
I did. I mean,
those cats were singing the blues. I just think it's hard. I wonder how you maintain, truthfully. I mean, once you got to a point when you're $1 million, when you're selling millions of records worldwide, and you have people saying, you got to make a hit. We got to just keep. I mean, how have you avoided the greed factor and still been able to create authentic music? Because listen, Phil Upchurch, Richard Evans, Ahmad Jamal, Bo Diddley, all those guys started at Chess Records. Those dudes were burning players. And today now you got auto-tune, you got cats that have 30,000 Twitter followers, and therefore they're a musical star, but yet they have no chops. So how? How do you
forget Joe Bonamassa is out there?
Joe Bonamassa, no doubt.
Don't forget.
So talk about how you, or even a specific example of somebody who's coming and saying, "Can you just play play these tunes because it's going to sell?" And you said,
Jake, that's a great question. Thank you for that question. And boy, it's a good thing you have Ted Nugent on the line here because I'm going to give you the only greatest answer to that great question that is available to mankind.
Wonderful.
So buckle your ass in. Listen to this. Here's the answer of how I defied that. My name is Ted Nugent. I'm 68 years clean and sober. I was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1948, and I did not invent the middle finger, but I have perfected it. You try to tell me what to play musically, and I will psychologically cold cock your ass because my music is pure. My musical dreams and my musical energy and my musical vision and my fellow musicians are pure. We're as pure as perfect sex. We're as pure as the birth of your child. We're as pure as the death of that animal to feed you and give life to your family. We're as pure as the tooth, fang, and claw of nature, and we're as pure as the emotion at the gravesite of your loved one. You mess with my music. That's what Stranglehold is about. All those record companies told me that feedback guitars and guitar lick songs weren't cutting it, and I needed to have a hit pop song, and I needed to have keyboards and all kinds of background singers. I said, yeah? Well, if a house gets in my way, I'll burn the son of a bitch down. Remember the night that you left me, you put me in my place? Got you to Stranglehold, punk, and I crushed your face. That's what that song's about. You try to tell me what to do with my music, and I'll dance on your skull.
I dig this philosophy. I'm not sure if I'm bold enough to do that.
I was and still am. I love me. If I wasn't me, I'd be my best friend.
What?
A lot of people have a survival kit when they go into the wilderness. I don't. I just wear my rock and roll shoes, and I've got enough skull and brain tissue in the cleats to feed me for a week from the punks in the music industry that laughed at me for not smoking their dope and made fun of me because I carried a gun and killed Bambi. I danced on their skulls, and I retained the protein from their flesh wounds to dine on in an emergency.
Can you talk about?
Sure, I can.
I know. Just talk about Ted Quarters a little bit. I would love to at some point come down and interview you but I mean, talk about Texas is in and of itself. It's on its own, and it holds itself to and it applauds itself for that. But I just want you to talk about Ted Quarters, the kind of space that you have, and ultimately. Maybe you could even talk about one of these pilgrimages to take care of Bambi. I mean, this is, I'm not a hunter, but I know you are.
Sure. Well, venison is the ultimate pure, organic, renewable superfood, and that's what I've eaten nearly exclusively for certainly 50-plus years and a lot before that. But, yeah, I'm a hunter, and my Ted Quarters, first I'd have to give the nod to the queen of the Ted Quarters, Miss Linda Peterson. She's at our office there in Michigan.
Phenomenal woman, yeah.
Phenomenal. Everybody around me, by the way, the word phenomenal applies. I have no really good people. If you're really good people, you can't work for me. You got to be phenomenal. You got to be amazing. If you're supposed to show up at work at 8, my people show up at 6. If it's over at 7, they stay till 9. Their job description, like my job description, is, yes, I can do that. How cool is that, huh? That's Ted Quarters right there. But I guess I could tell you, I'm gazing out upon a magnificent ranch here in Texas called Spirit Wild Ranch. I'm literally laying here with my 2 Labradors, Happy and Sadie. And Sadie is just a year old, and she's coming into heat, and Happy's going nuts. I don't even let him listen to Wang Dang Sweet Poon Dang. He'll blow up. And I think Sadie wasn't due to come into heat, but I play my guitar every day, and that'll make you go into heat. Here I come again now, baby, like a dog in heat. How romantic is my lyricism, huh?
Well,
Anyhow.
I just don't. It's just out there and full bear. This is the better question, though, because there's only 2 letters that separate music and magic, and I would love you to talk. I know you're going to say maybe it happens every night, but I was just wondering if you could talk to the audience about a specific memory when you left your physical body on the bandstand.
Oh, God. Jake, I kid you not, and I had to say I kid you not, because I'm afraid that most of my fellow man won't believe it, because especially in the world of political correctness, where we are already limiting ourselves, choosing to limit ourselves, every gig, Jake, out of body, every lick, out, gone. I'm gone. Like Jimi Hendrix said, there ain't no life nowhere. It's me, Greg Smith on bass, Jason Hartmus on drums, and the song. Like the mystical flight of the arrow as a bow hunter, if I'm going to bring pure venison to my family as rocket fuel for the belly and the soul, I must be the origins of Zen, the origins of the first, yoga. You don't shoot an arrow. You are the path of the arrow. I don't play licks. I am the air that delivers. It's beyond magic. There's no word to describe what goes on. If you really, really plunge, you just swan dive into the spirit of what Greg and Jason and I do every song. Now, do I have to maintain control so I don't hurt anybody?
Right. I mean, ultimately, because there's a point where you don't want it to be formulaic at all, but you have to let yourself go at some point to transcend. I mean, there's a balance there, but I don't doubt that if you put that spirit and that dive, the spirit dive. The problem is a lot. I want to go back to why are we hung up on this propensity to limit ourselves all the time?
I cannot imagine, like, the whole drug and alcohol self-inflicted curse back in the 50s and 60s when all these beatniks, the hippies didn't even get, weren't even there yet. It was beatniks.
Beatniks, yeah.
They're all smoking dope, and they'd offer me dope at the U of D fraternity pool party and the sock hops, and I didn't smoke because I didn't know what it was. I just knew my dad had kicked my ass if I smoked a cigarette, and it sure smelled good. But these guys, they would have spittle in the corner of their mouths and boogers coming out of their nose, and they'd stumble and they'd puke and they'd make noises, and their music sounded stupid. The more dope they smoked, the dumber their music sounded. They lost the groove, and they played notes that, I'm all for adventurous notes. I'm a big John Coltrane fan, and Sun Ra and Yusef Lateef and Miles Davis. But you got to identify the musical note connection. And these beatniks, the more dope they smoked, the more beer they drank, the dumber they got. So I unleashed myself, and I couldn't have told you about Zen when I was a kid, and I couldn't have told you about stream. I didn't even know the term stream of consciousness or primal scream. Hell, I never heard of the Baton Death March. But my point being is that we have our instincts are so powerful. And when I heard Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry and B.B. King, and when I heard that first James Brown scream, I didn't need to know why. I didn't need to know motivation for my craving for it. I just knew I had a craving for it. I knew that it was as raw and real as the heartbeat of life. And it so excited me, the groove and the fire and the bass and drum unification and the musicality of the guitar with the horn section. I went, well, I don't know what the hell this is, but I got to do more than just listen. I want to create and plunge and swan dive and breaststroke into this turbulent water of cleansing musicality. And so I did. And I did from the time I was like 7 years old when I started just a few years later taking lessons from going back to our first opening statement here, Jake. Lessons with Joe Podorczyk at the Capitol School of Music, and he taught me boogie woogie and honky tonk, and he taught me how to play it soulfully. And I couldn't for a long time because I was a kid and I was dumb and I was white. But boy, Joe pounded it, and then I was influenced by all those black artists that I went, oh, there's a thump here. You've got to be one with the drum, one with the bass. When the drum is boom, tap, tap, boom, boom, tap, boom, tap, boom, tap, tap, boom, tap, boom, bass, tap, boom, 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 and that's where Free for All came from. That's where Stranglehold came from. That's where Shut Up and Jam came from. That's where a song I wrote this morning called "Where You Gonna Run to Get Away from Yourself."
Oh.
That's where this stuff is as pure as a good dump after eating Mexican food for a week. Did I be any more clear?
No, and we're live on Power Talk worldwide, and okay, but here's the thing. I mean, you know that that cats today, they have teachers like Podorczyk, okay, but they don't have. Ultimately, you could go out, take that boogie woogie and honky tonk, and play on the bandstand 6 or 7 nights a week.
Yes.
Okay, but those cats today are in academia, paying a boatload of money to get an education, and they got nowhere to play, Ted. That's why the vocabulary of all musics is suffering right now. Because
be careful. Yes, they do have a place.
No, you can go.
To
You
play.
can riff on that. Yeah.
Yes, they do have a place to play. I got a buddy right here in Waco, Texas, not far from our Spirit Wild Ranch home. His name is Calvin Ross. Has the Lone Star Music. I don't know where you can go to the website, probably LoneStarMusic.com, I guess. But Calvin is a music nut. Just got a little shack of a guitar shop.
Mm-hmm.
Really adorable. It's like something you get on back in Chicago in '64. And got old guitars on the wall and some new, and always got amps. And whenever I walk in, he goes, "Try this one, play this one, do this." And I'll pick up an old Telly, an old Strat, an old 335, or a new PRS, or Taylor, or any old Gibson he's got laying around, and he'll dial in some new tones on a Black Star amp or a custom amp, or he's got an old Fender in there. And he and I talked yesterday, and he goes, "I finally got a club nearby. It's just down the road. And I'm going to get some guys together, and when you're ready, come on in and we'll jam." And I go, "Good, get Johnny and Big Johnny and Little Johnny. These are my rhythm sections here in Texas, and we're going to go." And I'm Ted Nugent, and I love being home more than anything, except making my music. And I'm going to go to that club, and I'm going to play. And if you really want to play, you will find that club,
Mm-hmm.
you will go there, and you will play, and you will hone your musical communication connection with people who love that human musical communication connection, and your dream of playing music will be as real as playing Cal Jam for $1 million for an hour. In fact, more real. It's choice, choice, choice. Make it happen. And here's the beauty of it, Jake. Sonic Baptism 2016, 58 rockouts in 68 days, best tour of my life. People came and packed every venue, whether it was a 10,000-seat place or a 500-seat club, because I hate days off. I don't want a day off. Find a place with electricity. We'll make it work. And we go to these places and we play, and people go because my music is so damn cool. Not to mention how funny I am on stage. And with Jason Hartless on drums and Greg Smith on the bass guitar, if I wasn't in this band, I'd follow them and watch them every night. I am living a musical dream that is a direct result of my demanding that I live my musical dream. If a house gets in my way, I'll burn it down.
Talking to Ted Nugent here on the Jake Feinberg Show. He is on fire, a totally liberated cat. And can you just talk a little bit about the inauguration next week? I mean, a lot of cats have politely declined to perform. You are going with all your glory. I just want you to talk about ultimately what the kind of vibe that you want to give off at this historic inauguration of President Donald Trump.
Well, I guarantee you this. Not many guarantees in life, but I'm one of them. When I mount the stage with my gods of thunder at my side, no matter where we play, it stinks of freedom and independence and defiance and we the people, life, liberty, and the pursuit of rock and roll, rhythm and blues happiness. It just doesn't matter where I plug in. I'm turning it into the Ted Nugent middle finger of freedom. And though we don't know exactly if, where, when, or how I'm going to be involved with the inauguration, I was there during the campaign, and I wallpaper and carpet bomb the media in all the important states. Every state is important, all 50 of them, or if it's Barack Obama's nation, all 54 of them.
Wait, what are the other two?
I can't imagine. I don't know. I don't know what a community organizer thinks America is supposed to be. Remember, he made a faux pas one night when he says, "I've been to all 54 states in America." maybe he meant New Brunswick. I don't know. But anyhow, I have such an amazing and American defiance, we the people connection with working hard, playing hard families in this country. You go to my Facebook right now. In fact, I welcome everybody out there, Jake, to witness my Facebook. Right now, I think we're at 18 million, but we go anywhere from 10 million to 36 million Facebookers. And the celebration of self-evident truth, not Ted Nugent's truth, not Ted Nugent's logic, not my common sense, truth, and logic. And it's alive and well, and my music reeks of that. The musicians I surround myself have such authority that when we play a piece of music, it doesn't matter what your ideology is, it doesn't matter what your political party is. If you believe in independence and rugged individualism and self-sufficiency and earning your own way to be in the asset column of life, my music is your dancing soundtrack for American freedom. And I just know that when I play the national anthem, I mean, I think you can Google a bunch of YouTubes where I did it. I just came back from another indescribable honor of being invited with the Delta Force and the Navy SEALs and the Army Rangers and the Green Berets and all the special ops where they have an annual event, and I'm the first civilian they've ever invited. And they gave me an award, and I've been given these special honors by all the heroes of the military for, going back to the Vietnam era. And they emotionally, with tears in their eyes as they're hugging me and giving me a handmade knife or a new 9mm. How cool is that? They tell me that Stranglehold saved their life, that the song Fred Bear drove them to survive and get home to their family, and that Free For All or Dog Eat Dog or Motor City Madhouse was blaring in their headphones as they swooped down in an Apache attack helicopter and killed a bunch of mongrels. That's what my music represents in its ultimate form. Or the 6-year-old little boy or the young boys and girls whose families contact me, Jake, to play Fred Bear around the campfire before they die from their terminal illness. I dare anybody to come up with a more meaningful, powerful musical connection than a family who choose me, why me, to play Fred Bear for their child before they die. Is there a more powerful connection I'm missing? I'm pretty aware of the world around me. I can't think of one.
Yeah, no, you're clear-headed. You're not smoking dope, that's really what I wanted to get at with you, because I see myself included sometimes pontificating about things, and I don't really have any direct contact with the peeps that I'm talking about. And it seems self-explanatory for you to say, well, I'm connecting with peeps on the bandstand every night, but how truly in this day and age, when business is conducted through technology, when somebody is overdubbing a guitar solo and emailing it from Sweden, how do you cut through that and still, aside from being asked to come and play an emotional song for somebody that had resonance, how do you stay connected to regular peeps?
Well, because I'm a regular peep. I went to the feed mill this morning, hung around with a bunch of goofy cowboys, and went to the hardware store and fondled some chains with a couple of farmers. I don't know how much freedom I have for street slang on your radio show, but
you can say whatever you want.
Well, there's a supreme identification to the ultimate human beings. And that supreme identification to the ultimate human beings is shit kicker. I am the blood brother of the shit kickers of the world. We make the world work. We are your welders and your electricians and your guitar players and your farmers and your ranchers. We are your plumbers and your carpenters. We are your mechanics and your high-tech savvy guys. We are the guys that bring you hot water and electricity and security and confidence. I am your gunsmith. I am your teacher. I hang out with people from every imaginable walk of life that have one thing in common. They're shit kickers. They get up early, they earn their own way, and they finish every day in the asset column for their fellow man. That connection, that's what I live every day. I got my buddy Chris is a ranch manager here at Spirit Wild. I got a bunch of ranchers nearby where we hunt and fish and trap and skin and gut and barbecue, and we work on our trucks and we go to work.
I love this.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, how much do you your city is suffering, and the Motor City. I mean, how often that's what I'm talking about. I mean, Texas is an.
There's all the shit kickers left. Not all of them, but most of them. Now you got nothing but bloodsuckers. Detroit, when I was born, right up until the 60s, until the liberal Democrats took over, it was the work ethic epicenter of planet Earth. Everyone knows that. Detroit was the most productive epicenter. We, the people, experiment self-government in the history of God's creation until the liberal Democrats and the unions started to brainwash people that they didn't have to be excellent anymore. The death of Detroit, the death of Chicago, the death of Baltimore, the death of every liberal city in America where somehow you bought the lie, you don't have to work so damn hard. You don't have to be excellent anymore. Mediocrity, man, that's the new badge of honor. In fact, if you just stay home, we'll send you a check.
Are you going to hold Donald Trump accountable?
Oh, boy. You might say that because the campaign was awesome, but me and my shit-kicker blood brothers out here, we're on the phone, we're on the email, we're on the Facebook, and we're ready to rock. We are going to demand that his campaign comes to fruition. You think we raised hell during the campaign. That was but a smidgen of what we're going to do when he hits the office. But I believe that he's ready to rock. The people he surrounded himself with, I mean, it wasn't the Motor City madman that he appointed, but Mattis is close enough for me. Donald Trump is as close to Ted Nugent as you'll ever get in politics. And he's brash, and he's forthright, and he's honest, and he's bold, and he's politically incorrect. And I believe that his business regimen is exactly what America needed. We are God, how stupid can you be? So we're going to try to reverse this bleeding trend, and I believe that we're going to, but it's going to take, my grandkids might see the fruition of these efforts, but boy, we're going to hold them accountable. You're damn right we are, with our senators and our congressmen and our mayors and our governors. We the people are on you, sons of bitches, and we got to hold you constitutionally accountable. They all take a vow to stand up and abide by the U.S. Constitution. Barack Obama didn't. Hillary Clinton didn't. Eric Holder didn't. Loretta Lynch didn't. Harry Reid didn't. Nancy Pelosi didn't. Are you kidding me? These people are freaks.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump, to me, is not a politician. So I can't.
He's a shit kicker.
He is, but I don't think the Republicans are.
The Republicans are not.
They're not innocent from this problem either. In fact, all I'm saying is Trump was a registered Democrat 4 years ago, and if he starts to put together a stimulus I know you're going to hate that word. If he's going to put an infrastructure plan to get Peeps to feel excellent again, because it's actually going to be providing a paycheck and a gig, is that something that you are going to be? And if the point is, if we don't have the money to pay for it and we're going to borrow it, how are you going to feel about that?
Well, you got to look at the whole picture. I needed a car and I didn't have any money, so I took out a loan. And then the car got me in the band of the gigs, and we started making a little bit of money. I was able to pay off the loan. I was able to buy the next car without a loan.
Right.
So pragmatism and utilitarianism isn't rocket science. Even the author of Wango Tango can figure this stuff out. And that's how we live within our means today. That's how my sons and daughters, my brothers and sisters, and all my family and my friends and my band and my crew and my management and my team, everybody I know, call us weird, but we live within our means. Debt minimal. Debt capable. U.S. government debt sinful, criminal. So it's going to take a long time, but I believe the infrastructure needs have to be addressed. But I believe that, Jake, everybody knows that if you just got rid of the glaring waste and quadplicity, it's not duplicity, it's like megaplicity spending by this government, the bloat, the sinful, blubberous, obesity bloat of Fedzilla, I guarantee for every $1 billion they spend, I could get the job done for $29.95. Are you with me?
No, man. It's personal accountability. I just wanted, and again, this is treading on thin ice, but I'm married, and it's really hard work. And you've been married how many times?
Well, this is my second marriage. We're 27. We're celebrating 28 years.
Bless
next
you.
week.
Okay, so
and Mrs. Nugent hasn't killed me yet. Everybody rejoice.
No, I guess, can you talk about, for all the dudes out there, we have 50% divorce rate in this country. No fathers around to teach their kids where the blues came from, where rock and roll came from. You have heroin epidemics going on. How have men become so castrated over the last 20 to 30 years in this society? I mean, I didn't even know you were still married.
Oh, yeah, Shemay and she's the queen of the forest. My God, she's the Zumba goddess. I'm going to tell you how old she is, but I swear to God, she's a teenager.
No, address that question, because I do feel like this was. I just feel that the neutering of the hetero male has become. I can feel it. I may not necessarily, I'm not a shit kicker as big as Nugent, but I feel it, and I know it in my gut. And I just want how do we get to this point? How do we get back on the trajectory of having some kind of hierarchical situation? Because the nuclear family is not what it was.
Well, the dumbing down of America has manifested itself in the most egregious way with the pussification of the men. And let me tell you, its worst example, and you can apply this anecdote in any realm or issue. I've got all these buddies that hunt with me. Guys pay a lot of money to really important children's and military charities to hunt with me. And we sit around the campfire, and it's really uninhibited. I mean, they don't hold anything back. But I've actually had guys who are lifetime NRA members who are gun nuts, have carried guns. They're law enforcement heroes or military heroes. Their life revolves around their love of guns and hunting and marksmanship and the aim small, miss small lifestyle. And then they'll they'll poke an ember in the fire with a long stick and go, "Well, I wish you could talk to my wife, man. She hates guns." And I go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You have an anti-gun wife. Are you kidding me? You haven't fixed her yet? Fix her with truth, logic, evidence, common sense, and the cherishing of life over death when unarmed helplessness will not allow you to survive a death threat. You haven't been able to convey to your own wife why you think a gun is an important life-saving tool, and you're the gun guy? And it's because, well, he doesn't want to be confrontational. Yeah, you do. That's exactly what you want to do. Suppose you don't want to be confrontational with your teenage son or daughter when they want to experiment with drugs. Take them down to the morgue and show them what happens when you experiment with drugs. Maybe take them to a Janis Joplin concert or a Jimi Hendrix concert. Maybe go see Bon Scott or John Belushi next week. You got to be kidding me.
Right.
Confrontation doesn't mean you have to bring a crowbar and start smashing skulls, though I'm a big fan. But you have to bring a crowbar of truth and logic and common sense and compassion and educate people to get out of the feel-good lie of liberalism, whether it's anti-gun or anti-hunting or pro-legalization of drugs so that we can have even more death and mayhem and crying families around grave sites. Educate them. Gather the evidence. You know the truth will set you free, but you have to be honest enough to seek out and embrace that truth and then share it with those people who you want to bring quality of life upgrade to. So the pussification came because we think that we can save a marriage by just giving in. No. You're weakening the marriage by giving in. Shemaine and I have, I won't say arguments or debates, but we have some round tables on occasion. And I don't acquiesce.
Yes.
But I nod and as gentlemanly as possible, which, by the way, more than the Motor City Madman, I'm the Motor City Gentleman. I am so charming, I can hardly stand myself because I am polite and understanding, especially with my soulmate, especially with the woman I'm raising our son Rocco with, and that we do everything in life together, and that we are as intimate as one being and one soul. I can convince her. When Shemaine and I got married, she'd never hunted in her life, and she was inclined to buy the propaganda that if you just don't kill Bambi, the deer will live forever. I fixed that in about 38 seconds with a backstrap wrapped in bacon over mesquite coals and explaining habitat carrying capacity, sustained yield, and how God made these renewable resources to feed us with the ultimate protein. Of course, as a dietitian and as a physical fitness goddess, she immediately grasped the evidence that she had never been exposed to before. The same thing with guns. She had never been downwind of a gun before, and she was real uncomfortable, if not downright scared of them. I fixed that in 8 seconds. This is how you do this. A man has a job to be the leader of a family and to be the voice of authority by consuming and seeking and embracing and exuding all the details and evidence that history and current events provide us, and sharing that with family members so they don't stub their toes on the obvious landmine field that life provides. It's not difficult. Sometimes you have some challenges. For example, my son Rocco, the most wonderful son anybody could ever want, brilliant guy, athletic monster. He's hardcore vegan. He burns incense. He doesn't want to go hunting. So what?
Right.
So what?
Right.
Kicks ass. He's a great kid, but you think Ted Nugent likes to kill stuff. Well, in fact, Pierce Morgan got a boot in the solar plexus of reality when he said, "Well, Ted, what if your son came home and said, 'Dad, I'm gay'?" I'd go, "That's great, son. Let's get a shotgun and we'll kill a pheasant." Who gives a damn?
Yeah, I dig. No, this is the crux of it. Is like you're not. This is not. This is about individual pursuit of.
Bingo.
All right. I mean, I think that that's the issue, and I think it's why. I mean, ultimately, to be a leader on the bandstand for decades, there's an authenticity there.
Oh, your band better respect. You better earn that respect every day over again.
Exactly.
By making sense musically, by making sense work ethic wise, by making sense in respect for their choices and listening to their musical recommendations and giving them the freedom to explore their musical horizons while still being true to my song vision. Yes, it's about intelligent and accountable openness. And I wish I had footage of every time I ran into gay people in my life. And there's been so many of them. We fall in love. I'm not homophobic. I love the sons of bitches. We have so much fun. I tease them, and they tease me back, and we hug, and they fondle my hair, and I fondle their hair back, and we do everything but get naked. I'm an open guy. Let's live it up.
I mean, why can't that get through? Well, okay, I want you to answer this in the most humble fashion. Part of my show, my show revolves around the 4 L's. One of the L's is life, which means overcoming adversity. And I'd like you to talk about a time in your career or in your life when you really were fighting it. Maybe it was a type of music, or you were dealing with some internal band, whatever it is, personal. A time in your life when you faced adversity, how you overcame it, and how it made you stronger.
Well, you know, I'm such a defiant prick that I
are.
don't really.
I knew this was coming. Yeah.
You know, when I see adversity, I pretty much just stomp through it. But you know, when I got my heart broken, my psyche shattered by managers, accountants, and attorneys who ended up ripping me off for my entire many millions of dollars of savings, because I didn't live a highfalutin rock and roll star life. I lived very frugal, and I saved tens of millions of dollars by flying coach and driving when I could and living in the same little one-bathroom farmhouse all through my multiple platinum, 30 million selling record years on a little 80-acre farm. And I had one little Mercedes and a Bronco, and I was a frugal guy, and I took care of my family. And it turns out that my management, my attorneys, and my accountants blew through tens of millions of dollars as they lied to me about investment and tax savings.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
The bean counters.
I was shattered because I would have Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner and bar mitzvahs and parties and anniversaries with these people. Then I found out they were robbing me blind. And I had a 357 in my belt, but I didn't grab it. I was, in Braveheart, when William Wallace finally sees the king, he's going to go after the king and kill him, and the hooded lanceman comes to take him on, and it turns out the hooded lanceman that's going to try to kill William Wallace and protect the king turned out to be William Wallace's best friend. And he laid back in the grass and he just gave up. I wouldn't have laid back in the grass. I'd have killed the son of a bitch. I'd have stabbed him with his own damn lance. So when I face adversity, I never stop making music. I did have a hard time letting the stream of consciousness, rhythm and blues flow continue, because I was so emotionally hurt by the treason I was experiencing by what I thought were dear friends. But I got over that pretty quick because the music cleansed my soul, and because my family and friends were there for me, and a great man named Doug Banker, who had been an accountant on the road and alerted me to this ripoff. He became my manager back then, and he saved my life economically. And when I saw that he was getting me back on the right track, and that I still had this wonderful, huge, powerful musical commodity that would get me out of debt with the IRS and with all my accounts, it didn't take long for me to get that attitude and that confidence back. So I
Go ahead.
Chad, 16 years old. This is one of dozens of experiences that I've been so blessed by God, where families are experience the trauma of a terminally ill child. And the kids' request, I mean, little boys and girls, 6, 7, 8-year-old little boys and girls, their last request in life is to go hunting with Ted Nugent. Are you kidding me? My haters could possibly have an impact on my life when families saying goodbye to a child think I'm okay to fulfill their dying child's wish, but the haters think that I'm a racist or a draft dodger. Are you kidding me? So, Chad, 16, wants to go hunting before he dies. He's just finishing some chemo and horrible therapy, and he's all bloated, and he's 16 years old, and he's, at that point in life where it's supposed to be the greatest time of his life, and he knows he's not going to live for another year, maybe another couple of weeks. We're here in the hill country of Texas, and when they called me, I said, yeah, bring Chad right now. I'll drop what I'm doing, clear my calendar, we're taking Chad hunting. Couldn't find an animal because of the heat. Called a buddy of mine, Tom Hartsfield, down the road. He got a huge, big ranch with some exotic African animals that Chad would just love to hunt and get a campfire going. We went over there. We couldn't find any animals because of the heat. Couldn't find anything. And up on the top of a mountain, almost like a Cecil B. DeMille moment, there's this huge African Aoudad ram laying on the edge of a shiny rock outcropping. Wow, why would it be out in the sun? It should be down in the cedars hiding from the sun. But there it is. Chad, let's go. Chad gets his rifle, but he's got a walker because he can't walk because of the chemotherapy and the radiation. Oh, boy. So Chad gets his walker, and we start walking around the edge of this cliff, and I said, Chad, we can probably get the truck on the other side. Chad goes, no, I'm going to walk. I'm going to get there. I said, all right, let's go. Be careful. Keep the wind in our face. Keeping these shadows. Chad's using a walker to get up a mountain, Jake. Struggling. I'm trying to be as strong as I can, but Chad doesn't want to drive. He wants to climb that mountain. Well, he did, and he got that ram with a perfect shot.
Wow.
And I'm holding back. I'm calling on God to make me strong because I want to cry like a baby. I'm not gonna, because if Chad ain't gonna, I ain't gonna. And now we got to get to the ram, and he can't get his walker up that cliff. So Chad gets on all fours and crawls up to that ram. And he hugged that ram, and I hugged him, and we sat there, and we cried like babies. And he goes, Ted, this is the happiest day of my life. And the guys came up, and we got that ram, and we quartered it, and we took some back straps and got a fire going that night. And I read a verse out of the Bible that Tom Hartzell gave me. I'm not a Bible guy, but he showed me one that talked about why Chad climbed up that mountain. And then Chad went home, and the next week he died. I don't know if there's a more powerful connection in this world than a family sharing that desire of a dying child with me. Mm. And I've done it. I've done it with little 6-year-old Macon. All he wanted to do was come hunting with Uncle Ted before he died. And Brittany and Scott and Jason. Good Lord, Jake. So I don't,
I mean, you said that is a story worth transcribing 10 times over. It's about humanity. But one final question for you. I did start my show talking to a lot of the Afro jazzers, the cast that came out of Detroit. I didn't speak to Elvin Jones, but it was Elvin, Tommy Flanagan. You mentioned Yusef Lateef. Did you ever cross paths with those cats, Kenny Burrell? Because those cats were making up the rules, just like you.
Kenny Burrell and Joe Podorczyk were buddies, and I did go to the. Can I remember the name of the lounge? The Baker's Keyboard. I can't believe my memory.
And Baker's Keyboard Lounge. Good for you, Nugent.
Yeah, Baker's Keyboard, Livernois, wasn't it?
So you went to Baker's?
I snuck into Baker's Keyboard Lounge and I watched Yusef Lateef
I love
go
it.
where nobody's ever gone in the musical horizons of sonic bombast, and I'm going, wow, I got to practice my guitar and find some notes like that, which I did, by the way.
You did find the notes.
I found those notes. In fact, Paul Schaefer of the Letterman Band, one of the greatest musicians in the world.
Oh, I interviewed Paul. Yeah, a monster player. I interviewed
Monster.
him. Yeah.
I mean, a god of music. He when I first jammed up with that band on Letterman, he came up and gave me this big-ass hug and said, Ted, I want you to know that the opening feedback note in the Journey to the Center of the Mind guitar solo is the greatest guitar note or maybe the greatest musical note in the history of the world because it's so wrong. Because it's not really a note. It never got to the note. It's like threatening to be a note. And I said, you're damn right, Schaefer. And I didn't even know where it came from, but it was because I was exposed to Sun Ra and Coltrane and Miles Davis and Yusef Lateef that you could play those semitones that were a threatening note. B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King were the masters of it. Certainly Stevie Ray Vaughan and Chris Duarte and Joe Bonamassa and Billy Gibbons, they've all got that down, but not quite like those jazz monsters. And so I was lucky to just get exposed to them. I don't know how, because I was into Little Richard and the Rolling Stones, but I heard these noises coming out of these outrageous jazz explorers, and that's what they were. They were exploring sound. I don't know if anybody ever get to see Sun Ra, but it really took some psychological discipline to listen to that stuff.
Yeah, no, he was doing circular breathing, and I mean, it was unbelievable stuff on that.
So I've really, talking about adventure, my adventure's not even over yet, but you listen to some of the stuff, I wish people, I'd get an awful lot of screaming love for my Shut Up and Jam record from 2015. With Sammy Hagar played on it with me, and certainly Greg Smith and John Kutz and the mighty Johnny Bonangic, and what Michael Lutz and I did, we made some music on that record that you'll hear those uncharted, defiant horizons and unexplored. I like to think of myself as Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea of the Gibson Birdland, and I'm still making those kinds of noises. I was playing stuff this morning. I got a PRS in the other room next to my Birdland, and I was making some noises they're just so cool, but within a groove structure, still a grinder, still a sexy, Stranglehold meets Cat Scratch Fever meets Shut Up and Jam meets I Still Believe, and Raw Dogs and War Hogs is still a heavy grind, but noise notes that no one would ever, they're not. People ask me, what scales do you know? And I only got one scale. It's the one I hang my dead deer from. I don't know any scales. I never learned any scales on the guitar. I don't want to play scales. I want to play guts and noises and patterns that end up being a melody. Journey to the Center of the Mind guitar solo, I was 19 years old. Where did that come from? That was incredible.
Ted Nugent, we're going to do this again. I wish you continued success, liberation, sonic expansion. Your ears continue to grow, and much love to you and your family. And thank you for shedding some enlightenment to my audience. And I'm going to transcribe some of this stuff and blast it all over new media so that people can really just, a man is just a man, and not the caricature that's blown up when people want to go after ridiculous, go below the belt. When you go at the heart, you find the true human. So I
stand strong, Jake, and I thank you from the bottom of my greasy Motown rhythm and blues heart for letting me expound and state the Ted Nugent reality and the truth. And a thanks to certainly Linda Peterson and my entire team, my band, my crew, my management, my family, and the incredible people on Facebook. My Facebookers are animals of truth, logic, common sense, goodwill, decency, a work ethic, a sense of positive energy and spirit. I'm not a tech guy, but what I do on Facebook every few hours, every day, is so fortifying. And I think we can all agree there's nothing more dangerous in this world, more dangerous than a coiled rattlesnake or a sow grizzly with cubs. The only thing more dangerous than that is Ted Nugent with more confidence. Wow. And my confidence cup runneth over. Thank you, Jake.
Love always, man. Take care.
Godspeed.
All right, cheers. Well, a whirlwind tour there with a legendary performer, master entertainer, great guitarist, the guy who's always searching for the right notes or the wrong notes. There are no wrong notes. Always searching for sonic expansion and truth in his world. Ted Nugent just joined us on the Jake Feinberg Show. Forgot to get the question in from the avid fan, but we'll have to do that in part 2. Thanks to Jim Parisi on Power Talk. It's all happening here. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, regular time, noon to 2. Until then, let's rejoin the Jim Parisi Show in progress.
Now had to deal with, what was the hottest story in the world without getting drawn into the unverified details, which appear to be, money of which appear to be made up because there's a part about Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, supposedly meeting with Kremlin envoys in Prague, except he says he's never been to Prague. So a lot of this stuff